The red sun of Kepler 442b was setting behind the tall mountains when the news came. Kim Tae-ho was washing his hands after another long day in the mines when his friend Choi Byung-ho ran into the medical tent. "Tae-ho, you need to hear this," Byung-ho said, breathing hard. His face was pale with fear. Tae-ho dried his hands slowly. He had seen that look before, back when they were soldiers together. It meant trouble was coming. "What is it?" Tae-ho asked. "The Federation is bringing him here, Vorthek the Eternal. They say he's coming to our world next week." Tae-ho felt his blood turn cold. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name. Vorthek was not just any alien warrior. He was the thing that parents used to scare their children into being good. He was the monster that made grown soldiers wake up screaming. For 300 years, Vorthek had ruled the galactic combat arena. No one had ever beaten him. No one had even come close. He was 12 feet tall with black scales that could stop laser blasts. His eyes glowed like red stars, and his claws could cut through steel like paper. The Drakmori race had made him to be the perfect killer. They had changed his body and mind through science until nothing was left but the need to fight and win. He felt no pain, no fear, and no mercy. He was the apex predator of the known universe. "Why are they bringing him here?" Tae-ho asked, though he already knew the answer. "To remind us who's in charge?" Byung-ho said bitterly. "Governor Park Jin-woo announced it an hour ago. They're going to have a demonstration in the main square. Vorthek will fight some Federation peacekeepers to show us what happens when people rebel." Tae-ho sat down heavily on his medical cot. Around them, the other miners were talking in worried voices. Some were crying. Others looked angry but helpless. Kepler 442b was a mining world. The humans who lived here had been sent by the Galactic Federation to dig up rare metals from deep underground. The work was hard and dangerous. Every day someone got hurt. Every week someone died, but they had no choice. The Federation owned them. Tae-ho had been a soldier once, before the Federation took over his homeworld. He had fought in the resistance, until they captured him. Instead of killing him, they sent him here to work in the mines. They said it was mercy, but Tae-ho knew better. Death would have been kinder. The only good thing about this place was that he could use his medical training to help people. As the mine supervisor, he made sure the workers stayed as safe as possible. He treated their injuries and tried to keep their spirits up. It was not much, but it was something. His sister Lee So-min came into the tent. She was 3 years younger than Tae-ho and much smarter. While he fixed people, she fixed machines. She had designed better safety equipment for the mines, though the Federation rarely let them use it. "I heard about Vorthek," she said quietly. "Is it true?" Tae-ho nodded. "I'm afraid so." So-min sat down next to him. "What are we going to do?" "Nothing," Tae-ho said. "We watch their show, we keep our heads down, and we hope they leave quickly." But Tae-ho ... "No, So-min. I know what you're thinking, but no, we cannot fight him. No one can fight him and live." Across the galaxy in a massive warship heading toward Kepler 442b, Vorthek stood in his private chamber. He was polishing his claws as he did every day before battle. Each claw was as long as a human hand and sharp enough to cut diamond. The Drakmori did not need much. Vorthek's room had only a sleeping platform, a weapons rack, and a viewing screen. On the screen, he could see information about his next opponents. Federation peacekeepers. They would be well-trained and well-armed, but they would die like all the others. Vorthek felt nothing about this. He had killed thousands of beings over the centuries. Some begged for mercy, some fought bravely, some tried to run. It made no difference to him. They all died the same way. A message came through his communication device. It was from Governor Park Jin-woo, the human who ruled Kepler 442b for the Federation. "Great Vorthek," the message said, "we are honored by your visit. The demonstration will show these rebellious humans the price of defying the Federation. Perhaps after they see your power, they will finally learn their place." Vorthek deleted the message without responding. He did not care about politics or rebellions. He only cared about fighting. The Federation pointed him at their enemies, and he destroyed them. It was simple, but lately something had been bothering him. The fights were too easy. His opponents died too quickly. There was no challenge anymore, no excitement. He had become so powerful that no one could give him a real battle. The Drakmori had bred these feelings out of most of their kind, but sometimes they came back. Vorthak pushed them down. Feelings were weakness, and he was not weak. Back on Kepler 442b. The week passed slowly. The miners worked their shifts, but everyone was thinking about what was coming. Some talked about running away, but there was nowhere to go. The planet was surrounded by Federation ships. Tejo tried to keep everyone focused on their work. In the mines, a moment of distraction could mean death. He checked the safety equipment twice each day and made sure the medical supplies were ready. He knew that after Vorthak's demonstration, many people would need comfort and care on the night. Before Vorthak's arrival, Tejo could not sleep. He walked outside and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, the monster was coming. Tomorrow, people would die just to send a message. So Min found him there. Can't sleep either? She asked. No, I keep thinking about the families who are going to lose someone tomorrow. The peacekeepers knew what they signed up for, So Min said. That doesn't make it right. Tejo sighed. I became a doctor to save lives, not watch them be thrown away for politics. You've saved a lot of lives here, brother. Don't forget that, Tejo smiled sadly. Not enough. Never enough. The next morning, Federation ships filled the sky. The largest one landed near the main square, and Vorthak emerged from it like a nightmare made real. The humans who saw him fell to their knees or ran away screaming. He was even more terrifying in person than in the videos. His black scales seemed to absorb light, making him look like a hole in the world. His red eyes swept over the crowd, and people felt like prey being hunted. Governor Park Jinwoo stood on a platform overlooking the square. He was a thin man in an expensive suit who had sold out his own species for power and comfort. Citizens of Kepler 442b, he announced, today you will witness the power of the Galactic Federation. This is what awaits all who dare to rebel against our rightful rule. 6 Federation peacekeepers marched into the square. They were the best soldiers the Federation had, armed with energy weapons and wearing advanced armor. Against any normal opponent, they would have been unbeatable. Against Vorthak, they lasted less than 3 minutes. The crowd watched in horror as the apex predator moved like lightning. His claws tore through armor like it was paper. His strength was so great that he threw a 200-pound soldier across the square with one hand. When the peacekeepers tried to shoot him, their energy blasts bounced off his scales. It was not a fight. It was a slaughter. When it was over, Vorthak stood among the bodies, not even breathing hard. He looked out at the crowd of terrified humans and felt nothing, the same emptiness he always felt after a fight. Let this be a lesson to you all, Governor Park announced. This is the fate of those who oppose the Federation. But Tejo was not looking at the bodies or listening to the governor. He was watching Vorthak's face. For just a moment, he thought he saw something there. Not satisfaction or cruelty, but something else, something that looked almost like sadness. 3 days after Vorthak's demonstration, the ground shook with a sound like thunder. Deep in Mine Shaft 7, something had gone very wrong. Tejo was checking medical supplies when the alarm started screaming. He dropped everything and ran toward the mine entrance, where workers were already gathering with fear on their faces. What happened? He shouted over the noise. Cave in! Someone yelled back. The whole north tunnel collapsed! Tejo's heart sank. The north tunnel was where the new workers were training. It was also where the Federation kept some of their alien overseers. If the tunnel had collapsed, dozens of beings could be trapped underground. Choi Byung-ho came running up with a group of the experienced miners. How bad is it? He asked. Bad, said Han Gildong, the oldest miner on Kepler 442b. I felt the whole mountain shake. There's probably tons of rock blocking the way. Federation officials were arriving now, led by a nervous-looking supervisor named Yoon Dae-young. He was shouting orders that made no sense and getting in everyone's way. We need to contact the Federation fleet, he was saying. They have the proper equipment for this kind of rescue. That will take hours, Tejo said. People are trapped down there. They might not have hours. It's too dangerous, Yoon Dae-young replied. We can't risk more lives for a handful of workers. Tejo stared at him. There are Federation overseers down there too. 3 of them were inspecting the new training area. The supervisor's face went pale. Federation citizens were worth more than human miners in the eyes of the law. Letting them die would mean serious trouble. Even so, Yoon Dae-young said, we should wait for proper equipment, but Tejo was already moving. He turned to the gathered miners and started giving orders. Byung-ho, get the emergency digging tools. Gildong, you know these tunnels better than anyone. Can we get in from the south shaft? Maybe, the old miner said, but it's dangerous. The rock is still shifting. We have to try, Tejo said. So-min, I need you to check the air systems. If they're trapped, they'll need oxygen. His sister nodded and ran toward the control room. Wait, Yoon Dae-young called. I'm ordering you to stop. This is too dangerous. Tejo ignored him. He was already putting on his mining gear and checking his medical kit. Other miners were doing the same. They knew that when someone was in trouble, you helped them. It didn't matter if they were human or alien, friend or enemy, high above them. On a Federation observation platform, Vorthak watched everything. He had been standing there for hours, looking down at the human settlement. He was supposed to stay for a week to make sure his message was understood, but he was already bored. The Drakmori warrior had never seen a mine before. His people didn't dig for resources. They took what they wanted by force. But something about watching the humans work interested him. They were so small and weak, yet they went deep underground every day, facing cave-ins and accidents that could kill them instantly. When the alarm started, Vorthak saw the humans running toward the mine like insects toward food. He wondered what could make such weak creatures move so quickly toward danger. Then he heard them talking about trapped workers, and he understood. They were running toward danger to help others. It made no sense to him. In Drakmori culture, the weak died and the strong survived. That was the natural order. If someone was trapped, it meant they were not strong enough to avoid the trap. Helping them would only weaken the group, but these humans seemed to think differently. Down in the mines, Tejo and his team were making progress. They had found a way into the collapsed area through a maintenance tunnel that was barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. The work was slow and dangerous. Every few minutes, more rocks would fall, and they would have to stop and wait. The air was thick with dust, and everyone was coughing. I can hear voices, Byung-ho called from up ahead. Someone's alive in there? They worked faster, moving rocks by hand when their tools were too big for the space. Tejo's hands were bloody from the sharp stones, but he didn't stop. Finally, they broke through into a small pocket where 17 workers were trapped. 12 humans and 5 aliens, including the 3 Federation overseers. Most of them were hurt. Some had broken bones from falling rocks. Others were having trouble breathing from the dust and bad air, but they were alive. Thank the stars, one of the Federation overseers said when he saw Tejo. We thought we were going to die down here. Not on my watch, Tejo said, already opening his medical kit. Let me check your injuries. For the next 6 hours, Tejo worked without stopping. He treated broken bones, cuts, and breathing problems. He gave water to the dehydrated and comfort to the scared. When someone was too hurt to walk, he carried them himself. The hardest part was getting everyone out through the narrow tunnel. Some of the injured had to be dragged on makeshift stretchers. Others had to be carried on people's backs. Byung-ho and the other miners worked just as hard, clearing rocks and supporting the tunnel roof so it wouldn't collapse again. So-min kept the air pumps running and guided rescue teams to the right. Places. By the time they got the last person out, Tejo had been working for 18 straight hours. He was covered in dirt and blood, exhausted beyond measure, but he was smiling. Everyone was alive. The Federation overseers were grateful. They shook Tejo's hand and promised to put in good reports about him. The human workers hugged him and cried with relief, but not everyone was happy. Governor Park Jin-woo arrived just as the rescue was ending. He looked angry and embarrassed. In front of all these people, a simple mine supervisor had done what the Federation officials couldn't do. This was completely against regulations, he announced loudly. These miners risked their own lives and Federation property without permission. "We saved 17 lives?" Taeho said quietly. "You got lucky," the governor snapped. What if the tunnel had collapsed completely? What if more people had been trapped? Did you think about that? I thought about the people who needed help. Governor Park's face turned red. "You're just a miner, Kim Tae-ho. You don't make decisions about Federation operations. Your job is to follow orders, not play hero." The crowd of miners and rescued workers listened in shocked silence. They couldn't believe anyone would criticize Taeho for saving lives. "Furthermore," the governor continued, "your reckless actions have damaged Federation equipment and disrupted mining operations. There will be consequences for this." That's when they heard the footsteps, heavy, slow footsteps that made the ground shake with each step. Everyone turned to see Vorthak walking toward them. The crowd scattered like frightened birds. Only Taeho stood still, too tired to run even if he wanted to. Vorthak stopped in front of Governor Park. The 12-foot alien looked down at the small human official like a mountain looking at an ant. "Explain," Vorthak said in a voice like grinding stone. "Great Vorthak," the governor stammered. "This miner violated Federation protocols. He acted without authority and put Federation citizens at risk." Vorthak's red eyes moved to Taeho. "What did he do?" He He saved the trapped workers, but he should have waited for proper authority and equipment. He saved Federation citizens? Well, yes, but... And he did this by risking his own life. Governor Park was sweating now. Yes, but regulations clearly state... Silence. The word came out like a growl, and the governor's mouth snapped shut. Vorthak studied Taeho for a long moment. The human was small and obviously exhausted. His hands were cut and bleeding. His clothes were torn and dirty. He looked like he might fall over at any moment, but he was standing straight and looking directly at Vorthak without fear. "You are weak," Vorthak said to Taeho. "Yes," Taeho agreed. "Yet you entered a dangerous place to help others." "Yes. Why?" Taeho thought about it. "Because they needed help, even the Federation overseers. The ones who oppress your people, hurt is hurt. It doesn't matter who you are." Vorthak had never heard anything like this before. "In his world, you helped your allies and destroyed your enemies. You didn't risk yourself for strangers, especially not for enemies. This makes no sense," he said. "Maybe not," Taeho said. "But it's right." For the first time in 3 centuries, Vorthak felt confused. This weak human had done something that the mighty Drakmori would never do. He had shown strength in a way that Vorthak didn't understand. "I want to fight you," Vorthak said suddenly. The crowd gasped. Governor Park looked like he might faint. "I want to understand your strength," Vorthak continued. "We will fight in the arena. If you win, you may ask anything of me. If you lose, you die. And if I refuse?" Taeho asked. "Then I kill everyone here until you agree." Taeho looked around at the frightened faces of his friends and co-workers. At So-min, who was crying, at Byung-ho, who was shaking his head desperately. "I accept," Taeho said. News of the fight spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within hours, every news service was talking about it. The human who dared to face Vorthak the Eternal, most people thought it was a joke. Some thought it was sad. A few thought Taeho was brave, but they all agreed on one thing. He was going to die. The Federation built a temporary arena in the main square of Kepler 442b. Ships came from all over the galaxy, bringing thousands of spectators who wanted to see the shortest fight. In history, betting pools opened immediately. The odds were 10,000 to 1 against Taeho. No one was betting on him to win. Some people were betting on how long he would last. The popular guess was 30 seconds. In his quarters, Taeho tried to prepare for the fight. Byung-ho sat with him, cleaning and checking weapons that seemed pathetically small compared to Vorthak's claws. "You don't have to do this," Byung-ho said for the 100th time. We could find a way to escape, steal a ship maybe, and then what? Tae-ho asked. He said he would kill everyone if I ran. You, So-min, all the miners, I can't let that happen. But this is suicide. He's 12 feet tall. He's killed thousands of warriors. I know, then why are you doing this? Tae-ho stopped cleaning his rifle and looked at his friend. Because sometimes doing the right thing means you don't get to. Alive to see tomorrow. But if you don't do it, there might not be a tomorrow worth living in. Bing-o was crying now. I can't watch you die, Tae-ho. I can't. Then don't watch the fight. Take care of So-min for me. Make sure she knows I love her. In her workshop, So-min was frantically trying to find something, anything that might help her brother. She had studied every video of Vorthak, fighting, looking for weaknesses. She had analyzed his armor, his weapons, his fighting style. There was nothing. Vorthak was simply too strong, too fast, too perfect. Her brother was going to die, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. She found herself staring at a picture of their parents, who had died when the Federation took over their home world. Her mother had been a teacher, her father a farmer. Simple people who believed in helping others and doing what was right. He's just like you, she whispered to the picture. Too good for this galaxy. Across the settlement, in the medical tent, old Han Gildong was telling stories about Tae-ho to anyone who would listen. I remember when he first came here, the old miner said. Young man looked like he'd seen too much war. But the first day, when Park Soo-jin got crushed in the East Tunnel, Tae-ho crawled into a space barely big enough for a child to pull him out. Didn't even know our names yet, but he risked his life for us. Other miners nodded, sharing their own stories. How Tae-ho had stayed up all night to save a worker with lung fever. How he had given his own food to families when rations were short. How he had never once asked for anything in return. He's the best of us, someone said quietly. And tomorrow he's going to die for it. Meanwhile, in his ship, Vorthak was also preparing. But his preparation was different. He stood in meditation, focusing his mind for battle. This was a ritual he had done before every fight for 300 years. Usually, meditation brought him peace. It helped him push away any distracting thoughts and focus only on the kill. But tonight, it wasn't working. He kept thinking about what he had seen at the mine. The human Tae-ho had been exhausted, bleeding, barely able to stand. But when threatened, he had stood straight and looked Vorthak in the eye without fear. That was not the behavior of prey. Prey animals ran or cowered when faced with a predator. They didn't stand and stare. Vorthak had seen courage before. Many of his opponents had been brave. They had faced death with honor, fighting to the end, even when they knew they couldn't win. But this was different. Tae-ho hadn't been fighting for honor or glory. He had been protecting others. Even his enemies. The Drakmori had no word for this concept. In their language, you were either hunter or prey, strong or weak, ally or enemy. There was no middle ground, no complexity, but somehow this human had shown all three at once. He was weak but strong, prey but protective, enemy but noble. It made no sense. The day of the fight dawned gray and cloudy. Thousands of beings packed into the arena, creating a noise like an ocean storm. Most were there to see a spectacle. Some were there out of curiosity. A few were there to honor a man they thought was about to die for doing what was right. Tae-ho entered the arena wearing simple combat gear and carrying a basic energy rifle. He looked tiny under the massive lights, like a child who had wandered into a place he didn't belong. The crowd fell silent when Vorthak appeared. He didn't walk into the arena so much as flow into it, moving with a grace that seemed impossible. For something so large, his black scales gleamed like metal, and his red eyes swept over the crowd like searchlights. In the VIP section, Governor Park Jin-woo sat with other Federation officials. He was sweating despite the cool air. This is madness, he muttered. When that human dies, it will only make him a martyr. We should have just executed him quietly. Too late now, said another official. The whole galaxy is watching. In the arena, a Federation announcer stepped forward. Citizens of the galaxy, his voice boomed. Today you witness justice. The human Kim Tae-ho has challenged the authority of the Federation and must face the consequences. He will fight Vorthak the Eternal in single combat. The rules are simple. Fight until one cannot continue. Tae-ho and Vorthak stood 50 feet apart. The difference in size was shocking. Vorthak looked like he could step on Tae-ho and barely notice. "Last chance to surrender," Vorthak called out. "I do not enjoy killing the helpless." "I'm not helpless," Tae-ho replied, raising his rifle. "I'm here by choice." The fight began. Vorthak moved faster than anything that large should be able to. Move. He crossed the distance between them in 3 massive strides, his claws extended. Tae-ho barely had time to fire his rifle before diving to the side. The energy blast hit Vorthak in the chest and did nothing. It didn't even slow him down. His claws swept through the air where Tae-ho had been standing, cutting deep grooves in. The arena floor. Tae-ho rolled, came up running, and fired again. This time he aimed for Vorthak's eyes, but the giant alien moved his head just enough to let the shot pass harmlessly by. The crowd was already getting excited. This was lasting longer than 30 seconds. Vorthak spun and swung his tail like a club. Tae-ho jumped, but the tail caught his legs and sent him flying across the arena. He hit the wall hard and fell to the ground, gasping for breath. "Stay down," Vorthak advised, walking toward him slowly. "You have shown courage, that is enough." But Tae-ho was already getting up. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead, and he moved like his ribs were broken, but he stood. "No," he said. "It's not enough." Vorthak struck again, faster this time. His claws raked across Tae-ho's chest, tearing through his armor and leaving deep cuts. Tae-ho cried out and fell backward, but somehow managed to fire his rifle while falling. The shot went wild, but it forced Vorthak to step back for a moment. Tae-ho rolled away, leaving a trail of blood on the arena floor. His rifle was broken, so he drew a combat knife. It looked like a toy compared to Vorthak's claws. "You are dying," Vorthak said. It was a statement, not a threat. "Yes," Tae-ho agreed. "Circling slowly, but I'm not dead yet." Something in his voice made Vorthak pause. There was no fear in it, no desperation, just determination. Vorthak had heard that tone before, but only from the strongest warriors. Yet this human was clearly weak, clearly outmatched, clearly dying. Why? Did he sound like a warrior? Tae-ho attacked, moving faster than Vorthak expected. The knife scraped across Vorthak's scales, finding a tiny gap between plates. It was barely a scratch, but it drew blood. Vorthak backhanded Tae-ho across the arena. The human hit the ground and didn't get up immediately. The crowd was silent now. This wasn't the quick execution they had expected. This was something else entirely. When Tae-ho finally stood up, he was swaying like a tree in a storm. More blood covered his face, and his left arm hung uselessly at his side, but he was still holding the knife. "Why?" Vorthak asked, genuinely puzzled. "Why do you continue? You cannot win. You gain nothing by prolonging your death." Tae-ho wiped blood from his eyes with his good hand. "I'm not fighting to win," he said. "I'm fighting to show you something." "Show me what?" "That there's more than one kind of strength." Vorthak tilted his massive head. "Explain." "Your strength comes from being perfect at destroying things. My strength comes from protecting them." "That is not strength. That is weakness." "Maybe, but it's a weakness that saved 17 lives 3 days ago." For the first time in the fight, Vorthak hesitated. He thought about the mine rescue, about this small human crawling through dangerous tunnels to help others. "Those Federation overseers were your enemies," Vorthak said. "Why save them?" "Because they were hurt. Because they needed help. Because leaving them to die would have made me the same as the people who sent them here to oppress us." Tae-ho stumbled forward, still holding his knife. "That's the difference between us, Vorthak. You destroy your enemies. I try to help them become something better. That is impossible." "Is it?" "You're talking to me instead of killing me. When did you start doing that?" Vorthak realized that Tae-ho was right. For the past few minutes, he had been talking more than fighting. He had been trying to understand instead of simply destroy. When did that change? The answer came to The fight continued, but something had changed. Vortex still attacked, still struck with deadly force, but now he was asking questions between his blows. Why do you protect those who oppress you? He demanded, swiping at Tejo with his massive claws. Tejo ducked and rolled away. Because oppression is a choice, he gasped. Being cruel is a choice. I choose differently. Your choices make you weak? Do they? Tejo struggled to his feet again. You've been fighting me for 10 minutes. Most of your opponents die in 30 seconds. If I'm so weak, why am I still alive? Vorthek paused. It was true. This human should have been dead long ago, yet somehow he kept getting up. Every time Vorthek knocked him down, Tejo found a way to stand again. You're just lucky, Vorthek said, but he sounded less certain. No, Tejo said, watching blood drip from his wounded arm. I'm motivated. I know why I'm fighting, do you? The question hit Vorthek like a physical blow. Why was he fighting? Because the Federation told him to? Because it was what he did? Because he had no choice? He had never asked himself that question before. The crowd in the arena was getting restless. They had come to see a quick death, but this fight was lasting too long. Some were starting to cheer. For Tejo, impressed by his determination. In the VIP section, Governor Park Jinwoo was looking nervous. Why isn't Vorthek finishing this? He muttered. I don't know, another official replied. He's just playing with him, maybe. But Han Mi-young, a Federation scientist who studied alien behavior, was watching more carefully. She had noticed something strange about Vorthek's fighting style. He was holding back. Not much, but enough to keep from killing Tejo instantly. Why would the galaxy's greatest predator do that? In the arena, Tejo was trying a different approach. Instead of running away from Vorthek's attacks, he was moving closer. What are you doing? Vorthek asked, genuinely confused. Looking at your wound, Tejo said, pointing to the small cut his knife had made earlier. It's still bleeding. That's not normal for your species, is it? Vorthek looked down. The tiny scratch was indeed still bleeding when it should have healed already. His enhanced biology was designed to close wounds within minutes. You're not taking care of yourself, Tejo continued, moving even closer. When did you last eat? When did you last sleep? You're exhausted. I am never exhausted. You're exhausted inside, Tejo said gently. I can see it in your eyes. When did you last feel happy about anything? The question was so unexpected that Vorthek actually stepped backward. Happy? The concept was foreign. To him, Drakmori didn't pursue happiness. They pursued victory. I don't understand, Vorthek said. I know. Tejo was close enough now to touch Vorthek's scaled arm. Let me help. To everyone's shock, including his own, Tejo reached into his torn medical kit and pulled out a healing patch. Without hesitation, he pressed it against Vorthek's small wound. The arena fell completely silent. Vorthek stared down at the human who was treating his injury. In 300 years of fighting, no opponent had ever tried to heal him. Most tried to cause more damage, not less. Why? Vorthek whispered. Because you're hurt, Tejo said simply. And I'm a doctor. I'm your enemy. Right now, you're my patient? Something cracked inside Vorthek's chest. Not physically, but something deeper. Something that had been frozen for centuries. I don't understand you, he said. That's okay. I don't understand me sometimes either. Tejo stepped back and the fight resumed. But now Vorthek's attacks were even more restrained. He seemed to be testing rather than trying to kill. Tell me about your people, Vorthek said as he swept. Tejo's legs. Why are they like you? Tejo hit the ground but managed to avoid being crushed. They're not all like me. Humans are ... complicated. We can be cruel or kind, selfish or generous. We choose, every day, what kind of person to be. Choice, Vorthek mused, catching Tejo in his massive hand but not squeezing hard enough to crush him. Drakmori do not have choice. We are what we are made to be. No, Tejo said, looking directly into Vorthek's glowing red eyes. You choose too. Right now you're choosing not to kill me. Vorthek stopped. Tejo was right. He could end this fight at any moment, but he wasn't. Why? I want to understand. Vorthak said, releasing Teho. Understand what? How you can be weak and strong at the same time. How you can help your enemies. How you can face certain death and still show kindness. Teho sat up slowly, wincing from his injuries. Maybe I can show you better than I can tell you. That's when the accident happened, high above the arena. A piece of equipment malfunctioned. A massive light fixture came loose from its moorings and began falling toward the crowd. People screamed and tried to run, but they were packed too tightly to move quickly. The fixture was going to crush dozens of spectators. Without thinking, Teho broke away from the fight and ran toward the falling debris. He was too hurt and too slow to save anyone by grabbing them. Instead, he did something desperate. He fired his backup weapon at the fixture's support cables, trying to change its direction. The blast sent him flying backward, but it worked. The massive light crashed into an empty section of the arena instead. Into the crowd. Te-Ho lay unconscious on the ground. Blood flowing from new wounds, Vorthak stood frozen, trying to process what he had just seen. In the middle of their fight, facing certain death, the human had abandoned their battle to save people who had come to watch him die. It made no sense. It was tactically stupid. It was strategically worthless. It was the most heroic thing Vorthak had ever witnessed. He walked over to where Teho lay and knelt beside him. The human was unconscious but still breathing. Vorthak could kill him right now, end the fight, claim victory. Instead, he found himself checking Teho's injuries. The crowd was murmuring now. Some were cheering for Teho's heroic act. Others were confused about why Vorthak wasn't finishing the fight. Why did you save them? Vorthak asked the unconscious human. They came here to watch you die. Teho's eyes fluttered open. Doesn't matter, he whispered. They're people. People deserve to live, even if they hate you, especially if they hate me. That's when they need the most help understanding that hate is a choice. Vorthak felt something he had never experienced. Before, it was like a warm light spreading through his chest, melting ice that had been there for centuries. I think I'm beginning to understand, he said. Understanding what? Why the galaxy fears you humans so much. Teho managed a weak smile. Because we're dangerous? No, because you're contagious. What do you mean? Vorthak helped Teho sit up, being careful not to hurt him further. Your way of thinking, your compassion, it spreads to others. I've been with you for less than an hour, and already I'm acting differently than I have in 3 centuries. Is that bad? I don't know, Vorthak admitted, but it's interesting. The fight was supposed to continue, but both combatants seemed to have forgotten about it. They sat in the middle of the arena, talking like old friends instead of mortal enemies. Tell me about your people, Teho said, before they changed you into a weapon. Vorthak was quiet for a long moment. I barely remember. We were simpler. Then we built things, made art, told stories. His voice grew sad. Then the wars came. We decided that survival meant becoming perfect killers. We gave up everything else. What did you give up? Love, joy, hope, wonder, all the things that made life worth living. Vorthak looked down at his massive claws. We kept our bodies and lost our souls. Souls can be found again, Teho said gently. Can they, after 300 years of killing? Everyone deserves a chance to change. Everyone deserves forgiveness, even from themselves. Vorthak stared at this small, broken human who was offering him something he had thought was lost forever. Redemption. How? He asked. How do I find what I lost? The same way you do everything else, Teho said. One choice at a time. Up in the VIP section, Governor Park Jin-woo was getting frantic. What are they doing down there? Why aren't they fighting? Han Mi-young was taking notes rapidly. This is unprecedented, she murmured. I'm watching a cultural exchange between two completely different concepts of strength. Cultural exchange, this is supposed to be an execution. Maybe, Mi-young said, watching Vorthak carefully help Teho to his feet. But I think we're seeing something much more important than that. In the arena, Teho was standing again, supported by Vorthak's massive arm. They faced the crowd together, predator and prey, enemy and friend. The fight isn't over, Teho said. No, Vorthok agreed. But I don't want to hurt you anymore. Then don't. Choose something different. What if I choose wrong? Then you try. Again tomorrow, that's what humans do. We fail, we learn, we try again. Vorthok looked out at the thousands of faces staring at them. Some looked confused, some angry, some amazed. For the first time in centuries, he wondered what they were thinking instead of simply not caring. I want to try, he said quietly. Then, let's finish this fight, Teho said. But let's finish it our way. The arena was completely silent as Vorthok and Teho stood together in the center. No one knew what was happening. This wasn't how fights were supposed to go. Tell me about your nightmares, Teho said quietly. Vorthok looked down at him in surprise. How did you know? You have the look. I've seen it in soldiers. The ones who've killed too much, seen too much. The weight gets heavy after a while. For a moment, Vorthok said nothing. Then, slowly, he began to speak. I dream about the first one, he said. The first being I ever killed. He was just a child, really. A young warrior from a species I can't even remember the name of now. He begged me to let him live. Said he had a family waiting for him. What did you do? I killed him anyway. Because that's what I was made to do. Vorthok's voice was barely a whisper. I've killed thousands since then. Warriors, civilians, children, elders. I stopped counting after the first 100, but I remember his face. Every night I see his face. Teho felt tears running down his cheeks. Not from his own pain, but from Vorthok's. What was his name? Teho asked. I never asked. I never asked any of their names. Vorthok's massive frame shook slightly. They were just targets to me. Things to be destroyed. They weren't things. They were people. With families, dreams, fears, just like you. No, not like me. I am a weapon. Weapons don't have dreams. You're dreaming right now, Teho pointed out. Nightmares are still dreams. Vorthok was quiet. For a long time. Around them, the crowd grew restless, but neither fighter cared anymore. I want to tell you about my people, Vorthok said suddenly. My real people. Before the changes. I'd like to hear about them. Vorthok sat down in the arena, cross-legged like a giant child. Teho sat beside him, looking tiny in comparison. We were artists, Vorthok began. Did you know that? The Drakmori were known throughout the galaxy for our sculptures and music. We carved beautiful things from stone and sang songs that could make other species cry with joy. What happened to the art? We destroyed it, all of it. The general said art made us soft, made us weak. They said we needed to focus only on war. Vorthok's claws dug into the arena floor. I helped destroy a statue my grandfather had made. It was beautiful, a representation of our homeworld's twin moons. I broke it into pieces with my own hands. Why? Because I was afraid of being seen as weak. Afraid of disappointing my commanders, afraid of being different. Vorthok looked at his claws, stained with centuries of blood. I was a coward. No, Teho said firmly. You were young and scared and trying to survive. That's not cowardice, that's being alive. You don't understand. I had a choice. Others refused. They were killed for it, but they refused. I chose the easy path, and now you're choosing a different path. Am I? Or am I just tired of killing? Teho studied Vorthok's face. The alien's eyes, which had always glowed with predatory fire, now looked sad and lost. Tell me something, Teho said. If you could go back, what would you do differently? Everything. I would do everything differently. Vorthok's voice broke. I would ask their names. I would listen to their stories. I would find another way. You can't go back, but you can go forward. How? How do I live with what I've done? The same way anyone lives with their mistakes. You acknowledge them, you learn from them, and you try to do better. It's not that simple. No, Teho agreed. It's not simple at all. It's the hardest thing in the world, but it's possible. High above them, Governor Park Jinwoo was furious. This is a disaster, he hissed to his aide. They're supposed to be fighting, not having therapy. What should we do? The aide asked. End this. Send in the guards. Kill them both if necessary, but Han Mi-young grabbed his arm. No, wait. Don't you see what's happening? This is historic. We're watching the transformation of the galaxy's most feared predator. I don't care about history. This makes the Federation look weak. Or it makes us look wise, Mi-young said. Think about it. If we can change Vorthak, what does that say about our power? In the arena, Vorthak was telling Tae-ho about his homeworld. It was beautiful, he said. Blue oceans, purple skies, forests that sang in the wind. We lived in harmony with the planet, took only what we needed. What happened to it? We strip-mined. If for resources to build our war machines, the oceans dried up, the forests died, the sky turned gray. Vorthak's voice was full of pain. We destroyed our own paradise to become better killers. Is anyone still there? A few. Living in underground cities, breathing recycled air. They hate what we became. They hate me. Do you hate them? I hate myself for what I helped do. For what I became. Tae-ho was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said something that surprised even himself. I forgive you. Vorthak's head snapped up. What? I forgive you. For what you've done? For the people you've killed? For the pain you've caused? You can't. You don't have the right. You're not the one I hurt. Maybe not, but I'm a person, and people can choose to forgive. Why? Why would you forgive me? Because holding on to anger hurts me more than it hurts you. Because everyone deserves a chance to be better. Because ... Tae-ho struggled to find the words. Because you're not the same person who started those fights. You're changing. Vorthak stared at him for a long moment. Then, to the shock of everyone watching, the galaxy's most feared predator began to cry. They weren't human tears. Drakmori tears were like liquid silver, flowing down his black scales like mercury. But they were real, and they came from a pain that had been buried for 3 centuries. I don't know how to be anything else, Vorthak whispered. All I know is killing, then learn something new. You learn to fight, you can learn to heal. Who would teach me? I will, if you want. My sister So-min can teach you about building things. Byung-ho can teach you about friendship. The miners can teach you about working together. Why would they help me? After everything I've done? Because that's what people do. We help each other, even our enemies, especially our enemies. That's how we turn enemies into friends? For the first time in centuries, Vorthak felt something other than emptiness in his chest. It was small and fragile like a newborn star, but it was their hope. I want to try, he said. I want to learn to be more than a weapon. It won't be easy. There will be people who don't trust you, who want to hurt you for what you've done. I understand. I deserve their hatred. Maybe, but you also deserve a chance to earn their forgiveness. Vorthak looked around the arena, at all the faces staring at them. Some looked angry, some confused, some amazed. But for the first time, he didn't see them as potential threats or victims. He saw them as people. How do we end this fight? He asked. However you want to end it, Tae-ho said. You have the power here. You always did. Vorthak stood up slowly, his massive frame casting a shadow over the entire arena. The crowd fell silent, waiting to see what he would do. I could kill you now, he said to Tae-ho. Yes, you could. I could claim victory and leave this world as I came to it. Yes. But I don't want to. Vorthak's voice carried across the arena, clear and strong. For 300 years I have been the galaxy's greatest predator. I have taken thousands of lives and destroyed countless worlds. I have been everything the Drakmori designed me to be. He paused, looking out at the crowd. But today I learned something new. I learned that there is more than one kind of strength. I learned that the power to heal is greater than the power to destroy. I learned that showing mercy takes more courage than showing violence. Vorthak knelt down beside Tae-ho, his massive form bowing low. I learned this from a human who had every reason to hate me but chose to heal me instead. Who faced certain death but chose to save others. Who had nothing to gain but chose to offer forgiveness. The arena was so quiet that people could hear their own heartbeats. I kneel not in defeat, Vorthak said, but in respect. I kneel not because I am weak, but because I finally understand what true strength looks like. He reached out with one massive claw and gently touched Teho's shoulder. Teach me, he said simply. Teach me to be strong the way humans are strong. The galaxy held its breath. For 300 years, Vorthik the Eternal had been the symbol of absolute power. Kings trembled at his name. Armies fled at the sight of him. Entire worlds surrendered rather than face him in battle. And now he was kneeling before a human mind supervisor. The crowd didn't know how to react. Some were shocked into silence. Others began to murmur among themselves. A few started to cheer, though they weren't sure what they were cheering for. Governor Park Jinwoo stood up in the VIP section, his face red with anger and embarrassment. What is the meaning of this? He shouted down at the arena. Vorthik, you were sent here to demonstrate Federation power, not to make friends. Vorthik slowly turned his massive head toward the governor. His red eyes, which had terrified countless beings, now held a calmness that was somehow more frightening than rage. I was sent here to show strength, Vorthik replied, his voice carrying easily across the arena. I have done exactly that, by kneeling, by surrendering, by learning. Vorthik stood up, but remained close to Teho. For 3 centuries, I thought strength meant being feared. I was wrong. True strength means being needed. The governor sputtered. This is ridiculous. You are the apex predator of the galaxy. You don't kneel to inferior species? Inferior? Vorthik looked down at Teho, who was struggling to stand. Without hesitation, the massive alien gently helped him up. This human saved 17 lives while risking his own. He faced certain death to protect others. He offered healing to his enemy. If that is inferior, then I wish to be inferior too. Teho finally managed to stand, leaning heavily on Vorthik's arm. He looked up at the giant alien who had become something impossible, a friend. What happens now? Teho asked quietly. Now, we learn, Vorthik said. You teach me about healing. I teach you about... Well, I'm not sure what I can teach you. But we figure it out together. The Federation won't like this. The Federation can adapt or be replaced. Change is coming to this galaxy whether they want it or not. Governor Park was frantically talking into his communication device, probably, calling for backup or orders from his superiors. But Han Mi-young was recording everything. Her scientific mind fascinated by what she was witnessing. In the crowd, So-min was crying with relief and amazement. Her brother was alive, and somehow he had done the impossible. He had changed the mind of the galaxy's most feared predator. Byung-ho was shaking his head in disbelief. Only Teho, he muttered. Only he could turn a deathmatch into a friendship. Old? Han Gildong was smiling through his tears. The boy did it, he whispered. He actually did it, but not everyone was happy. Some of the Federation officials looked terrified. If Vorthik could be changed, if the galaxy's greatest weapon could choose peace over war, what did that mean for their power structure? In the arena, Vorthik was addressing the crowd. People of the galaxy, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the massive space. For too long, we have believed that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak, that violence is the answer to every problem. He gestured to Teho. But this human has shown me another way. A way where strength comes from protecting others, not destroying them. Where power comes from healing, not hurting. Where true victory means everyone wins, not just the strongest. Some in the crowd began to nod. Others looked skeptical, but all were listening. I am not asking you to become weak, Vorthik continued. I am asking you to become stronger. Strong enough to show mercy, strong enough to choose peace, strong enough to help those who cannot help themselves. A voice called out from the crowd. What about justice? What about those who have wronged us? Vorthik looked at Teho, who nodded encouragingly. Justice and revenge are not the same thing, Vorthik said. I have done terrible things. I deserve punishment, but I also deserve a chance to make amends. To try to heal some of the wounds I have caused. How? Another voice asked. How do you make amends for 300 years of killing? By spending the rest of my life saving instead of destroying? By using my strength to protect instead of to conquer? By teaching others what I learned here today? Taeho stepped forward, his voice weak but clear. It won't be easy, he said. Change never is. There will be people who don't trust us, who think we're naive or foolish, who want to keep fighting the old wars. He looked around the arena, meeting as many eyes as he could, but change has to start somewhere. With someone? Why not here? Why not now? Why not us? The crowd was murmuring louder now. Some were arguing among themselves. Others were nodding in agreement. The mood was shifting, like a tide turning. That's when the Federation soldiers arrived. 2 dozen armed guards surrounded the arena, their weapons trained on Vorthak and Taeho. Governor Park Jin-woo stood up with a satisfied smirk. Enough of this nonsense, he announced. Vorthak, you will complete your mission as ordered or face the consequences. Kill the human and restore order. The guards raised their weapons. The crowd gasped and drew back, but Vorthak didn't move toward Taeho. Instead, he moved in front of him, using his massive body as a shield. No, he said simply. No. The governor's voice cracked. You dare refuse a direct order? I am no longer your weapon, Vorthak replied. I choose my own path now. Then you choose death? Guards, open fire. The soldiers hesitated. Shooting Vorthak was one thing, but he was protecting a human. And there were thousands of witnesses. Watching, fire! The governor screamed. Some of the soldiers began to raise their weapons. But before they could shoot, something unexpected happened. The crowd moved. Miners, merchants, travelers, even some Federation citizens began climbing down into the arena. They formed a circle around Vorthak and Taeho, linking arms to create a human barrier. You want to kill them? Somin called out, standing at the front of the group. You'll have to go through all of us? Byung-ho was there too, along with Han Gildong and dozens of other miners. We stand with Taeho, he shouted. More people kept coming. Aliens from different species, humans from different worlds, even some Federation personnel who had been moved by what they had witnessed. Han Mi-young was among them, her scientific equipment forgotten. History is being made here today, she said to anyone who would listen. We can't let fear stop it. The guards found themselves facing not 2 people, but hundreds. And more were coming every minute. Governor Park looked around in panic. This was not how things were supposed to go. Where was the fear? Where was the obedience? Stand down immediately, he ordered the crowd. Return to your seats or face arrest. Arrest all of us then, someone called back. We're not moving. Vorthak looked around at all the people who had come to protect him and Taeho. Many of them had probably feared him just hours ago. Now they were risking their lives for him. Why? He asked quietly. Because you gave us hope, Somin said. Hope that things can change. That even the worst of us can become better. Because you chose to. Kneel instead of kill, added Byung-ho. It takes more courage than any of us have ever shown. Because Taeho believes in you, said Gildong. And we believe in Taeho? Tears of liquid silver ran down Vorthak's scales again. But this time they weren't tears of sorrow. They were tears of gratitude. Thank you, he whispered. The standoff continued for hours. More Federation ships arrived, but their commanders were unsure what to do. The crowd had grown to thousands, and news of the event was spreading across the galaxy at light speed. Finally, a new voice cut through the tension. Stand down, all units. A new ship had arrived, sleeker and more advanced than the others. From it emerged a figure that made Governor Park go pale. Admiral Chun Wei-ming, the Federation's supreme commander. She walked into the arena, her presence commanding immediate attention. Even the crowd grew quiet. Admiral, Governor Park stammered. I can explain. Silence, she said without looking at him. She approached Vorthak and Taeho, studying them both carefully. So, she said finally, you're the human who changed. The unchangeable. I didn't change anything, Taeho said. I just showed him another choice. And you, she said to Vorthak, are the predator who chose to become prey. I chose to become something new, Vorthak corrected. Something better, Admiral Chun nodded slowly. The Federation has built its power on fear and force. But fear only works if people believe they have no other choice. She looked around at the crowd, still standing protectively around the unlikely pair. Today, you've shown them another choice. And once people see a different path, they can never unsee it. Are you going to stop us? Tejo asked. Stop you? No, the Admiral smiled slightly. I'm going to help you. This galaxy has been at war for too long. Maybe it's time to try something different. She turned to address the crowd. By the authority vested in me by the Galactic Federation, I declare this world an autonomous zone. A place where new ideas can grow without interference. Where strength through compassion can be tested and proven. The crowd erupted in cheers. But the Admiral continued, this is just the beginning. Real change will take time, effort, and courage from all of us. She looked back at Vorthak and Tejo. Are you ready for that responsibility? Vorthak and Tejo looked at each other, then at the crowd of people who had chosen to believe in them. Yes, they said together. 6 months later, Kepler 442b had become something unique in the galaxy, a world where former enemies worked together. Vorthak had kept HFY